guys and welcome to my channel. I'm Alberson. So today I'm going to talk to you about the things you shouldn't do while you're in Spain. I'm not an expert on Spain by any means, but I have been living here for about just over a year now. And of course I've made some of these faux pas myself and some of them I have seen in action. So I thought I would just make this video and help anyone who is planning on moving or traveling in Spain. If you enjoy this video, as always, make sure to subscribe to my channel and give me a like. And if you're already subscribed, put on the bell for notifications. As it's a festive season, I thought I would share one thing that I learned last New Year's Eve in Spain. Do not expect to be able to party in the same way that you would party at home in Spain. So unless you're coming to Spain and you've got a Spanish family that you're going to spend New Year's with, you're probably going to have a pretty quiet one at least before midnight. So what Spanish people usually do is they have dinner with their family, then they count in the new year eating grapes with their relatives, they greet all of their relatives Happy New Year, and then in the new year they may go out and party. So yeah, last New Year's was very quiet for us because all the restaurants closed super early, so much earlier than Spanish people would normally even eat. And yeah, and then there was just like nobody out or around and no bars or anything were open until into the new year. But because we hadn't been doing anything, I essentially just wanted to go to sleep by the time anything was opening up. So yeah, that's something definitely to keep in mind. Spanish people generally, I'm sure not all Spanish people are the same, but generally seem to spend New Year's with their families at least up until midnight so that they can wish their family a Happy New Year, which is actually really nice when you think about it. So the next thing that I wanted to mention, which actually I'm not sure whether English speakers or other language speakers are the biggest culprit for this one. Do not come to Spain and expect that everyone is going to speak to you in English or assume that everyone speaks English. Of course, some people speak English, especially if they're working in tourism. But yeah, just don't assume that everyone speaks English. Spanish is I think it's the second most spoken language in the world. So it is a really dominant language, and although no one's going to expect that you speak fluent Spanish just because you're traveling in Spain, it would be nice if you could learn a couple of phrases like sorry or excuse me or I don't really speak Spanish. So that way when you're like trying to ask someone to help you, you could maybe open with a Spanish phrase that lets them know that you don't speak Spanish, instead of walking up to them and hi, I don't know, do you know anything of this, and just looking at their face like. I actually must admit though that when I've been traveling around Spain, I have seen this faux pas more from non-native English speakers speaking English than English speakers speaking English. But yeah, I don't know, it just seems kind of rude. Like if someone walked up to me in Australia and just started like jabbering at me in another language in a shop and expected that I would of course understand them, I don't know, what kind of reaction are you expecting exactly? That leads me to my next point. Don't assume that no one understands you. I have witnessed this quite a few times where you see foreigners and tourists like yabbering on in English super loud, often complaining about things that they don't like or something that's happened in English, assuming that the locals don't understand. So yeah, a lot of them are probably going to understand you. Just because someone doesn't speak to you in English or maybe struggles to speak the language also doesn't mean that they don't understand. Spanish people do generally learn English from a pretty young age, especially the younger generations. So they're most likely going to be able to understand certain things. Like for me, for example, I am only studying B1 and then some bits of B2 in Spanish at the moment, but I can understand a lot more than I can say. So yeah, definitely be wary of what you are barking about loudly in English when you are in Spain. My next one is one of my favorites, and I must admit that Australians are not culpable here. Do not wear socks and sandals while you're in Spain. There is no better way to put on a sign on your head that says I am a guiri than to wear socks and sandals. And if you're not familiar with the word guiri, it is the word that Spanish people use to refer to foreigners. mostly like Northern European foreigners. There is no better way to let everyone in the vicinity know that you are a foreigner. I mean, they're probably gonna know anyway because Spanish people are amazing at spotting non-Spanish people, but I mean, you could at least pretend like you are living there and maybe you know the ropes a little bit, because if you're in some of the sketchier areas, maybe like in Barcelona or something, maybe you don't want a big sign on you that says giddy. So my next one is don't bother going to dinner before 9 p.m. You will be the only person there, and if you're not the only person there, you will only be eating with other tourists. And that really just removes a lot of the atmosphere. Going out for a late dinner in Spain is one of the nicest and best ways to like experience some authentic Spanish culture and to like mix a little bit with the locals. And if you're going out for dinner at any time before 9, and even 9 o'clock in summer would be super early, especially in the south, you're not going to be mixing with any locals. You're really only going to be having dinner with other foreigners, and everyone's going to know that you're a foreigner because no one eats dinner that early. When my parents came to stay, we took them to this really nice Michelin star restaurant in the pueblo we were living in. Amazing food. We've been there multiple times, and we'd always gone at like, I guess 9:30 or 10 o'clock-ish, or at least been starting to eat dinner, maybe had some drinks before at 9:30. And we thought because they just arrived in Spain, we'd go a little bit earlier so that it wasn't like they weren't so hungry by the time we got there. But honestly, it was only when we were finishing our meal that Spanish people started to come in. It was a bit of a shame really, because they didn't get to experience that real Spanish atmosphere, and it was, I mean, they had it in other places, but yeah, this is one of my favorite restaurants, and I really wish we'd thought to make a later booking. So when you're in Spain, don't expect someone to bring you the bill. So in Australia, they will usually bring you the bill, and often it's because they want to get you out of the restaurant. This doesn't really happen in Spain. I don't think I've ever seen it happen except for in the places where they automatically bring you the bill, and maybe they'll bring them to you as they bring you your meal. But if they're not doing that, you're going to have to ask for la cuenta. This is, I think, hard when you are used to a culture where service is really fast, and we often see it as an inefficiency in Spanish service when we first arrive, because like especially in Australia, you'll have like different service staff running around and everything's really quick. They'll take your orders really quick. In Spain, they usually will take your drink order really fast, but let you sit on everything else. But yeah, it's more about just the mentality and the lifestyle and the manners here. You don't go to a meal and eat really fast and kick people out. Like, so if they're not giving you the bill, it's not because they're being rude or ignoring you. You're just gonna have to ask for it. And just in general, I'd say don't expect really fast service, and don't think they're being rude if it's not fast. That's not the case. They just don't want to rush you and push you out the door, which once you get used to is actually a lot nicer. So just don't order sangria. And if you want to order sangria, but maybe try something else while you're in Spain. It's not, sangria does exist in Spain. It's definitely something that people drink. I've never actually seen a Spanish person or a co-worker or anyone ever order sangria. They do order other variations of sangria, like tinto de verano is very popular in Andalusia. A lot of my female co-workers would order that when we would go out for drinks. But yeah, I have never seen anyone except for a tourist order sangria. It's essentially just cheap wine and other ingredients to make the cheap wine taste better. It exists in a lot of European countries, and it's very similar to mulled wine when you think about it. I think it was the 1964 World's Fair in America where they served sangria, and that's kind of what like, this is the only drink that people in Spain drink. So this brings me on to my next point. Don't go to Spain and only order paella. Yes, paella is from Spain. It comes from the region Valencia, which is kind of, I think of it as being kind of southern, but I guess it's more central Spain. But it is not the only thing that Spanish people eat. Also, if you are going to come to Spain and only order paella and have tapas, then you're probably going to miss out on a lot of other amazing things that Spanish cuisine has to offer. The other thing I would say on this is that Spanish food is very, 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 very regional. Like lots of things in Spain is extremely regional. Just don't be one of those tourists who goes to Basque country and like hunts down for a tapas bar when really you should be looking for pinchos. So I don't know. What I'm saying is maybe do a little bit more research on the regions in Spain that you're going, find out what is authentic and maybe try to have that. A Spanish-British couple were telling me the other day that when they lived in Barcelona, they were talking to a lot of people who ran tourist restaurants, and they said really the only thing that they needed to do to get tourists in was to serve everything in the little clay pots, and I can't remember what they're called. Cazuelas, something like this. My pronunciation is not great, but yeah, they would just like put every dish inside one of these ceramic pots, and that's how you get tourists to eat there and feel like they're having a super authentic experience, even if they're not actually eating anything from the region at all. Spain has some of the best food in the world, and really you are actually going to miss out on such amazing food if you, one, only go to tourist places, two, don't really know what food you should be looking for in each region, and three, like, I mean, no one wants to wave the giddy flag, do they? Do not be startled by the double kiss. So in Spain, people kiss left to right. On like, you go to the left cheek and then to the right cheek. Yeah, that's right. And everyone will do it to you. So I know like my Spanish teacher, for example, says that when she's in a professional context, she prefers to shake hands, but it wouldn't be unusual for someone in a professional context or like a professor or someone to give you the two kisses. It doesn't mean anything, and it's good to know that they're coming so you can like not get into this awkward hug, handshake, kissing like situation like I did multiple times when I first arrived. Now the awkward thing that I'm finding is that sometimes when I see people who I know that are Spanish but are used to working with English speakers or dating English speakers, and then I go in for the double kiss and then they go in for the handshake, and then I don't even know what to do, because in Australia we would actually go in for a hug in that situation. So my main like vague general understanding is that if you are female, you will probably double kiss everyone, male or female. If you are male, you would double kiss females, and then males, I'm not actually sure. I see a lot of like the back slapping, and I just don't see a lot of handshaking, but I'm not a guy, so I'm not really paying that much attention. So if you know the answer to that one, just comment below. Don't expect everyone to be saying please and thank you to everything. It's not British manners, so don't expect British manners in Spain. People will always be polite, and they will always use like polite forms of intonation, and for example maybe would say like, get me a drink when you have time, something like that, rather than could you please get me a drink, please, thank you, please, thank you. I know that I still, even in Spanish, say please and thank you way more than any local would. I'm finding it really, it's quite difficult for me to remove, although I have noticed that when I send text messages that I have removed it so much that now when I'm in France I'm having to try to reintroduce like please and thank you very much into my everyday vernacular. But yeah, you don't need to do it as often, and if people aren't doing it to you, it's not because they're being rude to you, it's just, it's like, it's very cultural, the use of please and thank you. And here my favorite expression is like that they will use to order food is like either to like give me or put me. And you would never ever say this in English. People would think you were so rude. But yeah, in Spanish it's fine. It's all about the manner and how you say it and what you say after. But yeah, don't be offended if people aren't saying please and thank you all of the time. So my last point is probably also quite regional, and I'm sure Spanish people will tell me that. But I did live a lot of the time, I have spent a lot of my time in Spain in Andalusia. And I would say just be wary. Don't bother telling anyone if you don't like flamenco, if you don't like flamenco dancing, if you don't like flamenco music, or if you don't like flamenco dresses. It just seems to hit a nerve. I haven't actually personally slipped up on this one, but I have seen it in action before. and it doesn't seem to go down so well. I'm sure there are also Andalusians who don't like flamenco dresses or flamenco music or flamenco dancing, but in general, just try not to insult people's culture. That's probably like the real main point there. Anyway, that is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said before, make sure to subscribe and give me a like, and I'll see you down below in the comments. Felices fiestas a todos. I'm sure there's some Spanish people watching this like,